Hello everyone, my name is Catalina Wardamolida and my friend Uli Sahifa. We are from Group 9. In this video, we will explain about preliminary survey and internal audit. What is preliminary survey? Survey introduction in the internal audit is a way that used to be able to know the health of operation or audit at the time the audit began to do. As that then they know at the time of the audit has been complete. In simple, survey introduction can be understood as an activity that is carried out to get information about the object specified without doing verification in the time. Basic step for preliminary survey. Survey introduction can be a tool that is good to analyze employee and system, but the best also be a question that is not uniform. Internal auditors should ensure that the time and effort that we spend on a survey preliminary is productive. The success or failure of the audit base so highly depend on the survey. The auditor should conduct a survey with 8 basic steps. First, doing initial studies. Second, documentation. Third, meeting client. Fourth, getting information. 5. Observation. 6. Determining risk. 7. Manufacture flowchart flow photographing on a process. 8. Reporting. Controls for achieving the purpose. If the purpose, objective, and standard have been identified and agreed upon during the survey introduction, a step further is determining control of what or who should be applied to ensure that the outcome are desired to be achieved. Internal auditors are exposed to a number of potential control when they conduct preliminary survey of organization or agency policy, procedure, manual, specialist instruction, register reports, registration form, division of text, approval system, control, and so on. Trying to read and understand all of them can cause the eye and the brain. Trying to absorb the literally regarding the number of control often times throw away times. If we read, it's relevant to the problem particular. All the control is visible does not relate to reality. 5. A formal statement of purpose has been prepared for the independent organization. 6. The purpose of the accordance with the plan strategic of the organization of design of large company. 7. People who will be constrained by goals, objective, and standard participate in their setting. 8. People who will be constrained by goals, objective, and standard participate in their setting. Controls for achieving the purpose. Internal auditors are exposed to a number of potential controls when they conduct preliminary survey of an organization or agency policy, procedure, manual, special instruction, register reports, registration form, division of text, approval system, control, and so on. Trying to read and understand all of them can cause the eye and tire the brain. Trying to absorb the literary regarding the number of control often times through a wide times. If we read, it's relevant to the problem particular. All the control is visible does not relate to reality. Human aspect. Employee are the level of change. Control will either not by itself can guarantee that an activity will be carried out by well unless there are a number of people who are competent to do. Internal auditor seek to be objective in expressing their opinions, but when conducting survey, they must consider the people involved in the activity. For that, the survey introduction should include is visible, study notes, and practice employee. It could be not allow auditors make the determination that could profit signal endanger and affect audit program. Definition and objective program audit. Audit program is a set procedural audit made in writing. The detail and accepted the achieve the purpose of the audit would be good if the audit program is made separately for complete tests and substantive tests. The purpose of audit program to determine whether the presentation of the statement of financial by the management. There are several benefits of the preparation of the program of audit among others. First is a plan that is systematic about every phase of the activities that can be communication to all-time audit. Second, a foundation that is systematic in giving assignment to auditors and supervisors. Third, as a basis for comparing the implementation of activities with plans that have been approved and with the standard and requirements that have been set. Next, for helping the auditor who has not experience and familiar them with the scope, objective, and measure of activity of the audit. 5. Helping auditor to recognize the nature of work that has been done before. 6. Can reduce direct supervision activities by supervisor.
Hi, I'm Uli. I'm here to continue the explanation that has been delivered by Zatalina. When to prepare an audit program. Internal auditors must prepare an audit program immediately after the preliminary survey. That programs can have gaps and are inadequate and cannot set proper priorities. However, even a well-prepared audit program may not contain important matters that the auditor is not aware of until they then define work. Thus, all audit programs should be considered tentative until the audit is completed. The pro forma program, which is used in repeated the audit of the same operations, sometimes develops over a period of several years and is gradually accommodated by problem encountered in field work. The program must be flexible enough to accommodate change or situations where it can. The pro forma programs intended for use in multiple locations should be prepared in advance so that time is available to remove errors, unreasonable demands, and unnecessary steps. Pro forma programs should be tested to avoid confusion. These tests enable deficiencies to be detected early on and can be fixed before the program is widely used. Responsibilities, the audit program. Internal auditors must be responsible for planning the audit engagement. Planning must be documented and must include 1. Determination of audit objective and scope of work. 2. Obtaining background information about the activities to be audited. And then, determination of the resources required to carry out the audit. Next, communication with people who need to know the audit to be carried out. And then, implementation, if appropriate, field survey to get to know activities and control and more closely. And writing an audit program. Next, determination of how, when, and to whom the audit result will be communicated. And last, obtaining the ratification of audit work plan. Scope of audit program. The audit program must demonstrate the scope of audit work. The program should clarify what will be covered by the audit and what will not. The purpose of the audit should guide the scope of work. According to the standard, a professional internal auditor is responsible for checking and evaluating the effectiveness of the organization's internal control system and the quality of performance in carrying out the responsibility assigned. The main objectives of this internal control system are to ensure 1. Reliability and integrity of information. 2. compliance with policies, plan, procedures, laws, and regulations, and then security of assets, and next, use economical and efficient use of resource, and last, achievement of the goals and objectives set for operation and programs. Objective and procedure audit programs. 1. Purchase of land. The purpose of the audit is to verify legal ownership of the land to be purchased. An examination of title deeds is an interesting but not comprehensive procedure, as the documents may have already been changed. 2. Non-profit activity. Many audit objectives can be applied to audit of non-profit organization. A management-oriented audit will determine whether the activity is in accordance with objective set. So the right procedure for this is determine the mission of organizations, what standards have been set to measure performance to achieve the mission, and how far the standards have been achieved. 3. Pricing. In order to determine whether there is an inaccuracy in the variation in the rate of profit applied to the product between its customer, the appropriate procedure is to determine that all prices are objectively fixed and followed. Cost analysis will not be effective in this case. 4. Production. The purpose of the audit is to assist management in evaluating the effectiveness and efficiency of the production process. The proper procedure for this purpose is to compare actual costs with standard costs. 5. Purchase. The purpose of the audit is to determine whether an organization is buying excess raw material, finding whether there are standards set for the quality, quantity, and source of the raw material will not account for excess raw material. What must be considered in this case is to determine whether the production budget, work order, standard inventory level, and economic order quantities have been linked and used to determine the quantity to be purchased. A surplus account analysis can also help. 6. Quality. If an auditor wants to find out whether and why there has been rejection of products sold, an appropriate audit procedure is to evaluate the extent to which the sales department has communicated product returns to the production department. An analysis of waste and accumulation accounts may also helpful. Looking for sales volume data or customer credit ratings is clearly irrelevant. The purpose of auditing that can be applied in this case is to evaluate the feasibility of quality control standard. 7. Audit procedures. Audit procedures are techniques the auditor uses to determine whether the operating objectives have been achieved. 8. Advertising. Advertising is usually associated with advertising agencies. 9. Disposal of assets. In an audit of control over asset disposal, the auditor is generally not able to determine on his own whether the disposal of the asset was carried out properly. 10. Employee medical contribution. One of the objectives of the audit could be to determine the validity of the employee salary deduction for the contribution of the health insurance option. 11. Environmental protection and hazard alert. An internal auditor wants to determine whether the device is installed and operating properly. The only procedure that will give confidence about the installation and operation of the appliance is observing the placement of the instrument and carrying out the lift test. 12. Stop. An effective procedure is to do or review a physical inventory and get expert judgment. And then list assets. In audit of organizations that own, maintain, and operate leased assets, the objective of the audit is to determine the appropriateness of maintenance expenses. Next, research and development. Research and development projects should be planned just like any other project. The plans should include performance measurement standards. The purpose of an audit for sale is to determine whether the sale commission is too large. The best procedure for determining the accuracy of the recorded commission expense for each salesperson is to recalculate a sample of sale conditions. Other procedures, such as calculating commission rations, using analytical procedures, or assessing overall reasonableness. And last, tax revenue for the government. The purpose of the audit is to determine whether taxpayers are appropriately reporting their sales tax. An audit program. The internal auditor must be responsible professional. They may decide what that will be audited and which are not. Internal auditors not be charged sole responsibility to prevent deficiencies, violations, or mistakes. It is the sole responsibility of the management. Internal auditors are responsible for identifying the problems that allow or encourage the things that are not desirable. If the case of fraud or violations, internal auditors only have one reason: the methods and procedures they have performed. There is purchasing audit program, marketing program audit, comprehensive audit program, and pro forma program. Guidelines for the preparation of an audit program. The guidelines, the study report, program audit, and paperwork, as well as a document other than the audit earlier, and create a list of problems that require. The reason is to get the background behind and determine whether the result of the review prior to deciding the scope of the audit now with more good. Guidelines take a preliminary survey. The reason is to determine the purpose of activities which will be assumed there is that actual or potential and a system of control which exists. And then review of policies and procedures function that has been audited. Manual operations, a chart of authority, objective and target term, length and term. The reason is to determine the things that can be measured and rated and whether the function that operates in accordance with the basis of management. The guideline is prepare a flow chart of the key operations of the function being audited. The reason is to identify control weaknesses and obtain a visual analysis of the transaction flow. Next, assessing the standard of performance which has been determined by management and if possible in comparison with standard industry. The reason is to obtain a yardstick measuring. Then question and answer with the client and discuss the scope of the audit and the objectives the auditor wants to achieve. The reason is to obtain the agreement of the client and to avoid any understanding of the purpose and scope of the audit. Prepare a budget that details the sources of power that is needed to complete the assignment audit. The reason is to make estimates of the number of auditors and time are needed in order to ensure the efficiency of the audit process. And then interview with the key employees who are related to the audit function. The reason is to understand operation and the efficiency and effectiveness of operation and identify problems. Data on all material risks that must be considered. The reason is to ensure that problem prone already known and get the attention that is worthy. And next, forest risk that is identified, specify the control will apply and whether they already inadequate. The reason is to determine whether the control that exists to reduce or eliminate the risks which are identified. Determine the substance of the main problems and the opportunities that exist. The reason is determine the substance of the main problem and the opportunities that exist. Program criteria. First, the preliminary audit. Preliminary conversation with the object being audited. Collection of general information, review of regulations, evaluation of work procedure, and operational system. Preliminary test of the information obtained to identify the purpose of the interim audit, and making a summary of the preliminary audit results. 2. Review and test management control. Testing of management control, making a summary of the results of management control testing. And last, advanced audit. Development of management control test findings, presentation of further audit results, discussion of finding with the person in charge of the audit, discussion of further audit results with the audit object, and formulation of recommendation.